Today we're talking about the top 3 reasons that companies fail with their content. Now the reason I'm covering this is because it may be end of year and you're getting ready to go through next year's strategy, and maybe beginning of the year, you may be 3 to 6 to 12 months into putting out content. And what happens in most cases is companies look back at their efforts, the energy, the time, the money they put into it, and they go, what did we get out of it? What customers did we win? What was the brand that we were supposed to build, right? What were these outcomes and the desired results? Did we even know what the desired results and outcomes should have been or could have been? Did we have realistic expectations coming into it? All of these questions start coming up. And typically that's when I come into a company. And when I sit down with companies, the first thing I'm doing is I'm evaluating where are they currently at with their content. And as I do that, I start to see, okay, I see where this went wrong. I see why you're not getting results here. I see you're spending too much money in this area and it's not getting you a result, right? Let's cut that and let's move to something else that makes more sense for you and your business and your customers. The reality is, as I work through different companies across a wide different variety of industries, I see common trends. There's 3 top mistakes that companies are making, and sometimes they're making 1, 2, and sometimes 3 of those mistakes, and it's costing them a ton of revenue and money, and it's not leading to them attracting top talent, top customers, and building the brand they ultimately want to build in the marketplace. As I go through these top 3 reasons that companies fail with their content, I've pulled in a ton of questions that I've gotten from LinkedIn content, TikTok content, YouTube, podcasts, and from me being on calls with customers and prospects. And I took those questions that were around the top 3 reasons that I'm going to go through anyways, and I infused these questions in today's episode so that you guys get maximum value. And chances are, as you're listening to this or watching this, those questions would be the questions that would probably come up anyways, because I know you guys pretty well. All right, so let's get into it. The first reason that companies fail with their content is they have a lack of a clear content strategy or purpose. Now, the purpose and strategy is different than the outcomes and results, right? If I ask a company, maybe I'm asking you right now if you're listening, I say, what's the purpose or the strategy behind your content? You may look me right in the eyes and say, well, we're putting out content every week on LinkedIn or whatever it might be, and we're trying to help our customers, and therefore we want to win business. We want them to call us when they're ready to buy, right? But that's very surface level. That really doesn't get down to what I'm really looking for when I ask that question, because the results of, yes, we want to acquire customers, we want to build brand, we want to attract top talent, whatever that is, the results and outcomes are different than the strategic approach and the purpose behind the actual content. And a very good analogy would be, I want to be fit. I want abs. I want this, that, right? I want to look a certain way or feel a certain way. I want to be around for a long time for my kids. Those could be fitness objectives. But then when I get to the gym, right, I can't just say, well, I'm just here ready to get abs, ready to look fit, ready to get healthy. No, that trainer is going to go, okay, but what's the purpose of you being here today? What are you really trying to accomplish? What's the strategy to achieve those outcomes and results? And that's where companies sometimes just get lost. So now one of the questions I got was, where do we start? We're a B2B company and we're trying to put out content. We're getting serious about content now. Where do we freaking start? Because there's so much talk out there and there's so many different options you could do. How do we simplify this and take away the complexity for a second and just get really tactical and just say, hey, take this and go do this. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 quick things right now before we get on to the second biggest mistake that companies make. In terms of strategy, you can't just wing a content strategy. You can, but you're probably not going to get results. And I'm not saying you need to spend months or weeks figuring out your strategy like it's some, crazy complex thing. Simplify it. Make it easy and then get to work, okay? But here's how I look at it. The first thing, if you're a company and you've got a team, the very first thing you need to do is get alignment. With leadership, CEO, owners, they need to believe in it, see the vision, have realistic expectations, and be able to work with the entire company to make sure that you follow and work the strategy. If you don't do that, it's probably not going to work. This also means bringing sales and marketing together. Me and Marcus Sheridan, he was on my podcast recently. You may have seen the episode. If not, go check it out. It was a really, really high value, very impactful episode. But one of the things that he mentioned on the call and we talked about was building a revenue team, not a sales and a marketing team, a revenue team where both of these departments sit down and marketing and sales can talk about, hey, sales, what are the number 1 questions that customers keep asking over and over again? What are the biggest challenges that you hear about from sitting in meetings with customers or prospects on discovery calls? Marketing can help them create content that the salespeople can take and deliver to their customers. while they're on calls, before the calls, after calls, to help support closing more deals. So again, think about it like a revenue team versus a marketing team, a sales team, a customer service team. They need to work together. I would also say that in 2023 and beyond, salespeople need to be thinking about building their personal brands and posting their own content on LinkedIn and TikTok and places like that as well. But honestly, the marketing team needs to fuel that. Can we set up a mini studio? Can we give them the equipment, the resources, the editor, the post-production, the content writer? Can we give them the things they need to create better content, or at minimum be part of the content creation process that marketing's kind of running with? Because we also talked about this stat, is that customers are now 80% of the way through the buying journey by the time they sit down with the salesperson. So sales isn't like, oh, I'm the 20%. No, sales is part of the 80%. We got to get them involved in that process. So when they sit down for the 20%, they've helped us get to the 80% too, along with marketing. Now let's go a little bit tactical, because you're probably thinking right now, all right, but cool, got it, alignment, we've got it, we're there, great. Where do we start? Where do we start with the content? I would start with anything, any content strategy. I would start by writing down all of the questions that your customers have, the challenges, the questions, the pain points, the dream states, the things they get hung up on about your service industry, that whole niche, and go through it, write out 20, 30, 40, 50, every single one that you possibly can, and just start answering those questions, helping them overcome those challenges, helping them adapt that strategy. And what happens as you start to do this, and this content could go on your website, it could go on YouTube channels, it could be a podcast, it definitely could go in the feeds at times too. You start building trust and credibility and likability at scale. And by the way, people are consuming content when you're 7 o'clock at night hanging out with your kids doing dinner. You're sleeping, they're consuming content. You're on another sales meeting, you're in an internal meeting, they're consuming content. So it lives regardless of the day or the week. It doesn't take time off, it just constantly lives. So if you're wondering what this might look like, take me for example, right? I'm gonna create content, first of all, around the why. Why should people be creating video content in the first place? Why does it matter for your business? What's the ROI? Why LinkedIn? Why TikTok? Why YouTube? Why start a podcast? I need to educate my customers on why this matters in the first place and why they even want to pay attention. And then I'm going to get to the how stuff, which is, you'll see a lot of my content. I talk about how to create a content strategy. Customers ask me questions all the time. Where should we start with our content strategy? Should we do long form or short form video? What platform should we be on? How many times should we be posting? If we're going to build out a content team, what would that look like, and what should be our first hire, which we're going to get to here in a second. So I'm answering all these client questions, whether it's the why stuff or the how stuff. I'm answering their questions and trying to help them solve some of these problems on their own, because that's going to get them more bought into me and help position me as a trusted advisor, which means I'm going to be the very first person they think of when they want to work with somebody like me. Maybe the only person they think of. Now, as great as that content is, I also do not want you to make mistake number 2 that companies make that results in their content not working, which is they put themselves in a creative box. You need a structure, you need a strategy, but this is also creative. This is also art. So you can't get so in a box that you're like, the only thing we can do is answer our customer's question, otherwise we're not doing content. You can't do that. If some of your content doesn't make you and your executive team a little bit nervous, you're not pushing the boundaries enough. If everything is safe and vanilla and we're not really taking a chance and here's another article, and your content's not probably gonna hit. You need the strong point of views and perspectives. Take a stance. Be bold with your content. Mix things up. Test and try different things. This is a massive part of marketing and content. You have to be able to put content out there and then react and see how it does. And the ultimate judge of your content is the audience. Okay, a lot of this is going to come down to pushing false beliefs aside, pushing ego aside, pushing insecurities aside, pushing the fear of failure aside, and making content that pushes the envelope and drive serious results. And here's an example of this. I was just yesterday in person with the customer that's getting ready to sign up for us, right? For our video editing services and social media management. And we started talking through the content ideation, how we're gonna record the content, what that's gonna look like. And I had suggested a couple things for them, and one of them was being a show. It's 2 guys or 2 business owners that run this company. And I said, I would definitely consider doing a show, making it fun, entertaining, but also very educational for your audience, and their audience is primarily small to medium-sized businesses. And I said, this could take off. This could be great. I think your customers would love this. They would look forward to consuming the next episode, and it would drive results over time. Now, a company that's not aligned, they're gonna shoot that down and go, no, I thought we were just answering the customer's questions. We don't want to do a show and I don't know what they would think about that. But instead, since they are in alignment with the overall content strategy, they looked at me and said, yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. I think we'd have fun doing that too. And our audience would love it. Our customers would love it. Another example would be me in my edutainment content. I mean, you don't think there was times when I felt a little nervous about putting out videos that I felt like this is kind of pushing the envelope here. Like this is kind of out there content, right? Whether it's a rap battle or it's a skit video, or it's just me doing a new different style of edutainment videos or new way of editing videos, we're constantly pushing the boundaries. Because again, if you're in business, innovation is key. And you won't know what really hits and what doesn't until you start testing content out in the first place. So don't put yourself in a creative box with your content. Get out of that. So one of the questions that we got on this segment of not putting yourself in a creative box is someone had asked, what's the difference between the personal brand and the company brand? Like, how do I let my employees kind of express themselves and be creative, but yet still we have this company brand? And what's really the difference? And if you look at a place like LinkedIn, you've got a company page, you've got the company in general that has a brand and values and all that type of stuff. And it's got a strategy as a company, hopefully. But then you've also got employees that are creating content and want to express themselves too, and actually can help generate business for the company. And it's actually one of the best ways to scale a company brand is by having a ton of foot soldiers building personal brands too. It's great for the individual. They get a ton of value from it and career opportunities down the road and things of that nature. But it's also great for the company because now you've got 5 to 10 people out there building their personal brands under the company name. Your company may be a 20-person company, but it looks like it's got 5,000 people because of your presence on social media. The first thing I'll say on this is that you can't force people to create content and build their personal brands. You can support them, you can encourage them, leadership can lead the way, you can give them the tools, the resources so they can feel comfortable creating the content, but you can't force someone's hand into creating content and having them become a content creator, nor would you want to. So inspire, get people excited, support them, give them the resources, and you'll get some people that really want to take it and run with it. The second thing is that the personal brands should run parallel with the company brand. They're not the same thing as the company brand because the company has its own identity and values and brand, and so does an individual person. Play on both of these. Assuming that your values and kind of belief systems are in line, and doesn't mean on every single issue, but I mean, if my company, for example, is very unleash the creative, think outside the box, try new things, be innovative, and then the person as a personal brand is very in the box, doesn't want to try new things, is not very innovative, then clearly there's a misalignment. They're probably not a good employee to begin with. But assuming that they run parallel and there is an alignment, and then what's cool about it is you're gonna have the person and the personal brand, they're gonna veer off and do some things that like the company isn't doing or wouldn't do yet, but it supports the overall company mission and brand. And then the company's gonna start like a podcast, right? Or a weekly show. And then that personal brand can interject themselves into the company stuff. So they should be working hand in hand together and they should run parallel together, even though they're not the same thing. And finally, the third biggest reason that companies fail with their content is they fail to build a team and or a workflow or process around it so they can't stay consistent with their content. Does this sound familiar? You start putting out content and then maybe a couple weeks go by or a couple months go by and all of a sudden it feels like a chore that you've got to create the content. It's like, oh, I got to create content and I got to post it tomorrow, or I got to post it in 2 days, or oh, it's Friday, I don't have anything lined up for Monday, but I got a busy weekend. When you're feeling behind in your content, it means you don't have a good process or workflow or potentially a team to help you actually scale the content. Now, everyone's at a different place. So what that looks like as a solopreneur versus a 5-person team versus a 100-person team versus a 1,000-person team can look different. But ultimately, I'd go through the same scenario with every single person, which is where does the content come in as raw content, video, let's say, and how does it come out the other side as edited, ready to post video content that's going to perform in the feeds or the channels that it's going on. So whether that's you setting up a content calendar and just getting really prepared, getting a couple weeks ahead of time, whether it's you batch recording videos or doing a show and then getting 3 to 4 weeks ahead of that show so you're not fighting, week to week to try to stay above water, otherwise you're not gonna have content to post for that week. Whatever that looks like, you just need some type of workflow or process to stay consistent. Now, a lot of the companies that I'm talking to, they're gonna build a team around this, right? Whether that's 1 person or it's 5 or 10 people. And the question I got, and that comes up a lot, is how do you know when to hire somebody for your content? My answer to that question is very simple because it's exactly what I went through when I first hired my first video editor and post-production specialist. I did as much as I possibly could to a point where I could learn it to a certain degree, and then I got to a point where literally I could not scale my content or my business if I didn't hand this off to somebody else. I had to delegate. Now, potentially you do that day 1, which is great. Then you delegate that to somebody else. You pay somebody else money to get time back in your day and in your business. If you don't have the budget to spend on that, then probably you've got the time. If you don't have the time, then you've probably got the budget. And if you don't have either, then you've just got work to do in your business. You've got to figure some things out. Why don't you have time or money? Something's off in the business equation. Either you're not charging enough or your retention's not good enough on your customers. There's something missing if you have no time and then if you have no money. And you're more than 6 to 12 months in your business, something is off. But that's not a content problem, that's more of a business model problem potentially. The other question we got was, what's the first hire you should make when building out a content team? I'm going video editor, videographer, post-production, no question about it. Video scales so much better than text or audio or any other mediums, meaning I can shoot a long form video and break that down into literally everything. Transcribe it to text or blogs. I can get the audio, make a podcast from it. I can create long form videos from it. I can create a ton of micro short form videos from it. I can create graphics or still shots from it. And if you just look at the way the marketplace is going and how much consumers are consuming video content, to me, that's the first place to look. Whether that's somebody shooting the video with you, whether that's somebody doing the editing, the post-production, whatever that looks like, to me, the very first hire is video. Now, to go along with this, and I would say the very next hire would be something along the lines of a social media manager or a content manager, someone to organize all the content, get it ready, distribute it, potentially write the copy, hashtags, things of that nature. Somebody that's gonna work hand in hand with the video editor or post-production specialist. Because you wanna know the secret to winning customers with your content, to going viral on social media? It's not what you think. It's not some secret hack. It's not typing something in AI and they formulate some kind of post for you that's guaranteed to go viral. No, it's called creating quality content consistently, which is why the processes and the workflows, the things that aren't so sexy, those become so key. It's not planning to go viral. It's not planning to win a customer off this one video. It's planning to say, how can we create so much great quality content for our customers and put it in the feeds and the content channels daily. All right, so now that you've got the top 3 reasons that companies fail with their content, you shouldn't be making these mistakes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.